Welcome back to Wisdom Imparted by Mom. I'm your host, Lakeisha Sheree Jordan, and in the event that you're just tuning in to one of these videos for the first time, these videos are specifically being done for my babies, for the future, my grandkids, great-grandkids, as well as my loved ones, and anyone that chooses to partake in digesting some of the wisdom that I have managed to gather over the years. This particular video is something that all of us can relate to. It's simple. Who are you? And I will start by saying that many of you may not even know it yet, but you are not the person that the world defines you as. All right, so we're going to take off from there. First, let's at least acknowledge that most of us are built based on where we come from, what our background is, the things we've learned, and we have developed environmentally, basically. However, as we develop and get older, we start learning more about ourselves that may not have been poured into us when we were younger. For example, there are people who, their moms or dads, when they were little, oh, he's going to be a football player. She's going to be a doctor. They're shaping you from the time that you're little. There's some of us, unfortunately, that have had to go through, you're never going to be anything. They have been, nothing but negativity has been poured into them. While the things that other people tell us about ourselves can actually help to shape the way we perceive life and navigate through life, it has in no way, shape, or form any ability to be who you are unless you claim it, unless you continue to claim these things, good or bad. For example, many of you are in a work arena, professional field, or you're studying things, or you insist on carrying yourself in a certain manner because this is the way in which either you were taught you should, or you've decided that this is the only way I can be. So my question to you is, who are you? Really? Many of us have no idea how to learn ourselves personally because we are so caught up in making sure that we are present for, whether it's the supervisor, the family, husband, wife, whatever. We're so used to putting most of our time and energy into who we need to be that we don't make time for learning who we actually are. And how do we get to the bottom of who we actually are? Let's be honest. It's going to take a lot of dissecting over time. I say this from experience. For example, when I was younger, I was used to being nerdy. I love to read. You could always catch me with a book, pen and paper, whether I was writing, whether I was reading. I was that child that even read the dictionary for fun, thesauruses, just for fun. So growing up, I heard the term, you're a nerd. You're a nerd. I'm like, okay, yeah, call me what you want. I love to learn. But in that same environment, I also grew up hearing, you think you're better than everyone else. You think you're smart. Oh, you're a know-it-all. So you see how that works? I have people feeding me things that does not bother me, while other people are also feeding me things that were designed to destroy my self-esteem and my identity. Because as a young person, we never know how to handle these things that come at us, especially if we are raised in a toxic environment. If we are raised in a toxic environment, no one around us is teaching us how to deal with our emotions. No one is building self-esteem. No one is pouring into us those things that can help us grow and see ourselves, as I like to say, from a godly perspective. Because of that, we tend to continue to grow up and have this defined way of thinking about who we are. And we portray this part. So for my babies, you're going to hear me say this a lot, for my babies, I never want you to be in a position where you stop discovering who you are. I'm talking about the God-given design, because all of us have a purpose here in life. Even though many of us go to our graves never knowing what that purpose is, there are those of us who continue to seek out the blueprint for who we were designed to be. And how we start becoming successful in discovering who we are is by picking apart the things that were poured into us, whether good or bad, in order to really start looking at the things that we naturally gravitate to, the personality we naturally have when there's no one looking, when we don't feel as if we're restrained. For example, many of you guys are super silly behind closed doors, but you might be in a position at your workplace where you have to stay straight-faced. Is that really who you are, or is it who you have decided you need to be for the position? No matter who you are, like no matter what you're discovering or who you decide you want to portray yourself as, the most valuable thing you can do is really start working on discovering who you are. Who did God design you to be in order for you to get closer to understanding your perfect purpose in life? Something none of you guys are is worthless. None of you guys are worthless. None of you guys are without purpose. So I want us to start looking at all of the things that we might come across as input from the outside world and start learning how to dispel the lies. Start learning how to get rid of those comments or those descriptions of you that were put into you by people who wanted to have a hand in shaping how you see yourself. What does that look like? It's story time, guys. For me personally, as I stated earlier, growing up in a toxic environment and being around people who weren't even capable of defining themselves, let's be honest, it put me into a position where I felt as if I had to either be to myself or suppress the loving, nerdy nature that I had, because I felt as if while I didn't need to fit in, I didn't feel at a young age that I needed to fit in. I felt like I needed to survive. And that's sad. I can laugh about it now. But as I'm being realistic about where I came from, being in a space where you feel like you need to survive puts you into a position where you find yourself always trying to figure out what works for your environment. Who you are is always going to be relevant when you are behind closed doors in your most comfortable space. So if you are naturally a person that's angry and you have to put on this mask for the outdoor world because, maybe you don't want people to know you're miserable, you're going through things. In order for you to conquer that misery behind closed doors, you have to start asking yourself questions. Was I really put here to just be miserable? Who am I? Was I really put here just to constantly go through strife and pain? I know for some of us, life can throw us so much that we feel like that's what it is. Why does it seem like it never gets better? Why does it seem like the moment I'm getting ahead, I'm suddenly pushed backwards? But is that a fact? I want us to start with something simple. If you naturally, like I said earlier, behind closed doors, you like to laugh, you like to joke, you like to be bubbly, but you feel like you get into environments where you just can't naturally be yourself, I want you to try being yourself in the outside environments. Because what it's going to do is put you in a position to practice getting used to how people will perceive you and being able to stand your ground on who you are. See, the problem is not that most people are not able to be themselves. It's that most people are not able to stand their ground on who they are, being immobile. Some of us are very loving, and yet we feel like because we've been in poor relationships, oh, I got to put this wall up and, make sure that people don't see this as me. I never want any of my loved ones to be in a position where the world shaped them so much so that they totally forgot who they were or will never get to the realization of who God designed them to be. So when you're out here dealing with people, if you are not consciously communicating with yourself about what the input is doing to you, how it's making you feel, then you can lose sight of how the input from other people is contributing to you transforming into someone that God didn't design you to be. Simply put, if you are allowing the input from the outside world to shape you, you are doing yourself no justice at getting closer to at least discovering your purpose, your value, and just who God designed you to be, period. So for all my babies, when you come across people who are like, that person's stuck up, that person thinks they're better than me, or, oh, this person acts like the world owes them something. If you know in your heart that that's not you, you really do not feel like the world owes you anything. You know for a fact that you're not stuck up, but yet you're being hit with these things that can actually kind of sting your self-esteem or sting your perception of yourself. Stop right there and be like, I appreciate you sharing your perspective of how you see me, but it has nothing to do with who I know I am, who God has told me I am, and I'm not going to accept what you have to say as fact. Many times when people are projecting their perspective of you onto you, it is truly just what they feel, how they feel. And they're projecting, like what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of times they're projecting what's been tossed at them onto other people because it's a lot easier for them to then push out the garbage that they're harboring so that they don't have to necessarily feel that misery anymore. Simply put, I like to tell people this. If you are in a space where you notice that people are uncomfortable around you, it's okay to say, okay, I wonder what I'm doing to make people uncomfortable. If you are not aware that we are physical beings kind of operating in a spiritual realm, if you don't recognize that it's always going to be more than what is physically happening, then it's okay to say, okay, maybe is there something I need to do different? But if you are fully aware that you are dealing with more than just this physical presence, that there are a lot of spiritual energy that can come at you, even on people that you care about, even from people that you care about or people that care about you, stop and ask yourself a question. Is what I'm hearing truly who I know myself to be? That is not to say to disregard people who mean you well and may be able to see things about you that may be outside of your best interest for maintaining a decent character. So if someone is, God forbid, you're out here, you're drinking, you're partying, you're sleeping with a bunch of different people, and someone's like, baby, that is not going to benefit you, because life, good or bad, has consequences. No matter what you put out, you got to deal with what comes back to you. So if you genuinely have someone in your circle that's like, hey, maybe you sleeping with too many people, maybe you're dealing with, too many things that could bring you nothing but negativity, you want to stop and think, is there some truth to what this person is saying? And if you don't mind being honest with yourself, you will start to look at how your walk in life has produced either negativity or positivity. So if you're out here partying all the time, you're dealing with different people, things like that, you want to ask yourself, while I'm doing this at night, when I'm by myself, does this really make me feel good? Does this really make me feel like I'm valuable because I can go out here and basically deal with a bunch of different people? Is this really who I am? Because I'm ready to guarantee you, behind closed doors, when people are out here doing things that make them feel good in that moment, they're doing it because they don't feel good behind closed doors. You will not find people who are naturally, internally happy, internally at peace, out here doing things to seek out their peace and happiness and joy, because they already have it. So now what they're going to do is come into this world, walk out and be amongst people, and they're going to be able to produce this. Their fruits are going to be authentic. They're going to be good. But if you see them out here seeking out attention, constantly changing men and women like diapers, they're telling you without saying a word, I'm not at peace. I'm not really happy, because I would not need to do this to make me happy, to make me feel like I'm somebody special, if that's how I felt. So I'm going to keep this video short for all my babies. My question will be, who are you? God literally has designed you with purpose and beauty. Many of you guys, and I know for my children, I watched them since they were little. I allowed them to naturally be themselves, like freely run around the house, flip, do arts and craft. You know, my children would write on the walls when they were younger. I'm going to pick Heaven, for example, my 15-year-old currently. She used to draw on the walls, while most parents would lose their minds, because I realized it was a habit of hers. As I'm cleaning up her artwork, I just bought paper and started aligning it along the bottom parts of the wall. Why? Because I said, this young lady is naturally gravitated toward art. And here it is 15 years later. My baby done made a business out of everything from beading to clay art to all these things. Had I stifled her when she was younger, she wouldn't have a natural skill that God gave her, that he put in her before the world was coming to try to disrupt that. She wouldn't have a natural skill that is now a part of her business and her future. And I say that to say that many times, especially with little ones, if you guys are parents out there, if something is disrupting you that your child is doing, whether they're, you notice they want to play with fire, you notice they want to break up stuff, things like that. While this could be very dangerous, get them away from these things, but also start paying attention to whether or not they're innately attracted to these things. Because if they are, you can put them in a position to say, for example, the child that seems to always want to play with fire, start talking to them about welding, a safe way to be in the midst of playing with a fire. Start talking to them, if they're breaking up everything, about potentially being in the midst of demolition. You see how that works? I'm not going to destroy what you're naturally attracted to, because before I knew you, God knew he was sending you here with natural skills and gifts and attraction to certain things that are going to benefit the purpose he has for you. So instead of discouraging the children away from the things that you see without anybody cueing them in, they're naturally attracted to or they're naturally doing, start thinking up ways in order to help them grow in what was naturally put into their hearts. I hope this message can reach you guys in its fullness. Who you are is who God said you are, and you will never know who that is until you start picking and plucking the roots of all the negativity and nonsense that you let the world put into you. I will talk to you guys in the future. Have a wonderful day.